is now in their body. And they just say all this stuff, and somehow they know all this stuff about this person who lived and died before them. And then the parents are like, what? And they look it up, and everything is accurate, and it's just wild. So I got this article off of Wall Street Insanity.com. This article is by Sarah Alender, and there's a little paragraph before. The concept of reincarnation, the idea that old souls are reborn into new bodies, has existed for thousands of years. It's part of the Hindu and Buddhist traditions. It's also become quite popular among many non-religious people. Some insist that it's real and that stories like the following are proof of its existence, while others insist that it's all a bunch of nonsense. Whatever you believe, these 9 stories are certainly creepy enough, but does that mean reincarnation really exists? Read and decide for yourself. Number 1 is called Murdered Boy Reincarnated. An anonymous reader of the Epoch Times shared a story in which her 3-year-old son told her that he liked his new daddy, even though the reader's husband was his biological father. Confused, the mother asked him why. He replied, "My old daddy was really mean. He stabbed me in the back and I died. But I really like my new daddy. He'd never do that to me." Oh my god. Number 2 is called Boy is His Own Grandpa. 18-month-old Gus Taylor's grandfather, Augie, had died a year before Gus was born. However, according to Listverse, the year-and-a-half-old Gus claimed that he was his own grandfather. When he was 4, he was able to identify Augie in family photographs, even though he had never seen the man in real life. That might not sound like much, but it gets weirder. Years before, Augie's sister was murdered, and her body was dumped in San Francisco Bay. No one in the family had ever spoken of this to Gus, and consequently, everyone was shocked when Gus started talking about his dead sister. Number 3 is called Past Life as a Fighter Pilot. I think I have heard of this one before, I'm not sure. It sounds familiar. 8-year-old James Leininger of Louisiana began talking about aviation at 2 years old. His parents reportedly knew nothing about the subject and were amazed when their little boy started displaying such an extensive knowledge of planes. Their amusement turned to alarm when James started having nightmares about being shot down by a plane with a red sun on it, a Japanese plane. He talked about having dreams and memories of being Lieutenant James McCready Houston, a World War II fighter pilot from Pennsylvania who had been killed in Iwo Jima more than 50 years earlier. Andrea, his mother, said that James would scream at the top of his voice, "Airplane crash, on fire, can't get out, help," as he kicked and pointed to the ceiling. Later, James told his parents that he had flown a plane called the Corsair from a boat called the Natoma. When James's father decided to do some research, he discovered that there had been a small escort carrier called the Natoma Bay, which had been in the Battle of Iwo Jima, and that there really had been a pilot called James Houston. His plane was hit in the engine by Japanese fire on March 3rd, 1945. According to Jim Tucker, a psychologist at the University of Virginia, Huston's plane crashed exactly the way that young James Leininger had described. Number 4, World War I veteran shot in the throat. Oh god, that's brutal. What a way to die. After developing a phobia of gray, rainy days, 4-year-old Edward Austrian started complaining about a severe pain in his throat. Whenever it hurt, he reportedly said that his shot Doctors couldn't find a reason for Edward's throat pain, so they took his tonsils out as a precaution. Eventually, though, he developed a cyst that no one could figure out how to treat. After he was encouraged to share more stories about his past life, the cyst disappeared. The doctors never determined the reason why. Number 5, a serial killer in a past life. A Reddit user had the following chilling story to share. Since as long as I can remember, I've had vivid dreams about being a serial killer from the 1940s or 1950s. I lived in an old farmhouse in the middle of the woods, secluded from everyone. I buried my victims, all women with medium-length, jet black hair and very pretty, on my property. There are at least 50, if not more. I've been dreaming about this guy since I can remember, and the details never change. I don't have a name or location, but it bothers me enough that I tried searching and I don't think I was ever caught. Sometimes I have moments where I genuinely miss my old life. In this life, I wouldn't hurt a fly and have dedicated myself to helping people. Sometimes certain situations trigger feelings that are not really me, and I'm not sure where they come from. It's always the same type of girl and always the same thoughts of how to disable her in order to get her back to my place. That is terrifying. I've come to terms with it and pass it off as an intrusive thought, but I've never wanted to act on it in this life. Damn. These stories are crazy. Number 6, Civil War veteran reborn. Lots of people that fought in wars. Another Reddit user has a story about a friend who may have had a past life as a soldier during the American Civil War. I knew a guy who thought all things paranormal were nonsense and laughed at the mere thought there could be truth to anything outside of what was accepted. He told me a story of his, though, that really surprised me. He was in his late 50s, and his entire life, for as long as he could remember, he had a dream where he was standing in a field. It was always exactly the same layout, rolling hills. He could see the tree line from his vantage point. The only real landmarks were a lone tree and a wooden fence. Every time during the dream, he felt as if he was a young boy and could feel there was a large group of men with him, seemingly behind him. He never told a soul, not his wife nor his kids. One day he took his family to Gettysburg while on vacation. That exact vantage point was the Union high water line during the battle. It definitely disturbed him, but he still refused to consider it as being paranormal. Number 7, Darth Vader. Another reader of the Epoch Times shared the following story with the paper. My older sister was born the year my dad's mom died. According to my dad, as soon as my sister was old enough to say the words, she said, "I am your mother." That one was really short. Number 8, 3-year-old leads police to man who killed him in his past life. A 3-year-old boy in the Golan Heights caused quite a stir when he claimed he was murdered in a past life. The boy, a member of the Druze ethnic group which believes in reincarnation, had a long red birthmark on his head, according to some Druze beliefs. Birthmarks indicate where death wounds occurred during a past life. When the boy learned how to talk, he started telling elders that he had been killed by an axe blow in a prior life. The boy was led through several villages to see if any of them were familiar to him. Once he had found a familiar village, he claimed that he knew exactly who had killed him. Suddenly the boy walked up to a man and said, "Aren't you Eli Lash?" Forgot the name. The man answered yes. Then the boy said, "I used to be your neighbor. We had a fight and you killed me with an axe." Eli told me how the man had suddenly gone white as a sheet. The 3-year-old boy then said, "I even know where he buried my body." Afterward, the boy led his elders to a pile of stones, under which they found a body with an axe wound in its head. He also led them to the spot where the axe was buried, reportedly 4 forcing his killer to confess to the crime. Holy shit. So this is the last story of the article, number 9, the Barra Boy. Also known as the boy who lived before, Cameron Macaulay of Glasgow, Scotland, started telling his mother at the age of 2 that he wasn't from Glasgow at all, but rather from a small island called Barra off the west coast of Scotland in the outer Hebrides. Cameron described intimate details of his life there, including his black and white dog, the beach he used to walk on, his mother, the house they lived in, and his 7 siblings. He even named his former parents, claiming that his father was Shane Robertson and that he had died in a car crash. Determined to get to the bottom of this, Cameron's parents took him to Barra. Although no one there remembered anyone by the name of Shane, the Macaulays found the house Cameron had described. The black and white dog was in one of the family photos, and the car that Cameron remembered was there too. Dang, bro, those stories were crazy. I love those stories. I want to hear more. Anyway, as always, I hope you guys are doing great. I will be getting a Let's Not Meet Stories video out soon for you. And then maybe another one for like Valentine's Day, like a special. I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna be yet. But anyway, please like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. As always, it really helps me